Everyone needs therapy.
Everyone does need therapy.
This is Renee.
And this is Irina.
And you're listening to Honey, I'm Healing. Costco on a Sunday, you're actually crazy.
I had a nightmare 2 weeks ago after we went to Costco. I had a nightmare that night and I woke up crying in my sleep. And because of what happened at Costco in my nightmare.
Oh my gosh. It's just so overstimulating. And I especially around this time of year, I cannot stand going. Like
my least favorite place.
That Mall of America,
especially with the holidays.
Especially with the holidays. Great segue for what we are going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how to navigate the holiday season, just with like grief, loneliness, all of those fun things that come along with this time of year, and just how we want to help. That's kind of what we're getting at.
Yeah, and navigating with family and like differences in opinions and beliefs and
being in a transition period in your life and navigating that during the holidays and stuff. So
are you in a place where you're like anxious or nervous about navigating holidays right now?
No. There have been, this will be my third Christmas. This will be my third Christmas single. And when I first moved back here, it was really hard because there were a lot of memories and traditions and feelings, and kind of had to relearn and reestablish new traditions and patterns, and that's a really big key in this process. It's establishing new rhythms and patterns and holiday traditions. So one thing that I started doing was I started making pierogies on Christmas Eve, and
like your own little tradition.
Like my own little tradition. And so I started doing that, and that really helped. And I made sure to book myself on the holidays. I had a friend of mine, her family told me that I could come to their Christmas that they were having, and I knew that I didn't want to be alone. And my family wasn't doing anything on that day, so I went over there and I made sure that I wasn't alone. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah, I was always surrounded by family years ago, post-divorce. So that was never like a hard time. But as far as like the memories coming up during that time of shared places, and especially when you have a child involved, that could be very hard. My least favorite thing when looking forward to spending the holidays or spending time with family around the holidays is all the cooking and cleanup. But mindset shift for this season, I think, is how lucky am I that I get to do the holidays with my family. As we get older, I forget that my families, my parents, my families, they're growing older too. They're growing in their own life, and so that's like my mindset shift for really every season, but especially the holidays, because they're memories that we think back and look on quite more frequently than like Easter or Halloween. I actually can't really remember any Easters or 4th of Julys but Christmas is a staple.
I think it's because Christmas is painted to, it's the most magical time of the year, most wonderful time of the year. But is it? And I think that there's such big pressure for Christmas, every Christmas, to be this magical Hallmark moment, and it's not. And especially as we've gotten older, like,
I'm laughing because of the breathing.
I'm sorry. Dash, come on.
I'm not laughing at you.
He knows that I'm about to leave, so he's being really clingy. just ASMR over here. Irina just, and then
Oh, you
Dash
can hear
breathing.
it?
Yeah.
Usually my mic is so quiet.
I heard the crunch of that one. So you're just, oh yeah, oh yeah,
From Haven's birthday party last
oh
night.
yeah,
So.
yes ma'am.
Crunching over here.
You're fine. No, I think Christmas is made out to be this, every Christmas has to be this magical Hallmark movie moment, and it's not. And I think that expectation on top of dealing with family dynamics makes it really difficult for people to feel happy or joyful.
I could totally see that being single.
Oh, yeah.
I can say that is not a thing if you're a parent because the holidays no longer about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you literally are living the holidays through your kids' eyes. So it's totally different. But, man, I've not been single or childless in a very long time. So
well, good thing I can represent that demographic here.
I'm like, I don't know what to say.
I remember there's this, okay, so you probably haven't seen it, but there's a scene in Bridget Jones' Diary where it's Christmas and she's drinking wine on her couch and she's 30 and she's like just indulging in self-loathing and she's drinking wine and she's the song all by myself, don't wanna be, like that's playing in the background and I just felt like I've so been there. But there's a book that I've talked about on here. It's called Hind's Feet in High Places, and it talks about how when you're going up through this metaphorical mountain in your life, when you're trying to overcome something, how Jesus will choose sorrow and grief to be your companions through that, and that they will help you in ways that no other emotion can. And being in a very different spot on this journey, I can now 100% agree with that and confirm it. But when you're in that moment, when you're having to lean on and feel those things, it's really, really difficult. And so I just want to encourage anybody that's listening that's feeling like they're just unbearable grief or weight, that like just lean into it and honor it, because it's teaching you something, it's doing something to you, and no one emotion is better than the other. They're
That's so
all
true.
important.
Like receiving each emotion, the grief, the sorrow, the sadness, especially during the holidays, which is so much harder. In the moment, it doesn't feel like a lesson. It doesn't feel like growth, but it does in hindsight. So totally agree.
I think there's this thing too with, at least what I've experienced, is feeling like your hope is just constantly deferred, and that the good thing isn't going to come ever, and you're just going to be stuck in this place. And that's something that I've really wrestled with. And you know, I think I have a different relationship with that tension now, but you know, kind of shifting gears, I think about being no contact with my dad for many years throughout the holidays, and you know, really not seeing one side of my family, and being okay with that, but also dealing with family members asking questions that I didn't necessarily want to answer or talk about. And that's why boundaries are really important. And what I personally did was I kind of anticipated the questions that they were going to ask ahead of time and practiced what my answer would be. And I practiced building up that boundary. And it sounds really stupid, but it actually really worked. So.
Yeah, like what kind of questions?
They're just like about my, how's this person, or have you heard from this person? And I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about them. Or I don't really have a practical example that I'd be willing to share, but I think
I'm trying to get us deep in the dirty here.
I can't. There's too many implications with that one, but
I totally get it. I remember after getting divorced and like just friends and family would ask specific questions about like even Haven or like custody or this and that, and it's just like now, I mean not now, for many years now, I'm like there's not really anything to even say. Like it's been so long and things have been so good, but like in the beginning it's very tough to talk about divorce and like legal stuff, and you know people want to know your business, but
like
that's a great tip for the holiday. Mind your own business.
Yeah.
When you were talking about hope being deferred, I just finished this book this past week that I've been reading for like a year. I read a little bit at a time of it. It's called The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein in there. And in there, she talks about how, was it in that book? Or, oh man, I read so many books at one time. Anyways, I read a book and it said, like just how it's so important to be in the now, be in the moment, be in the now. And for our hope to like hope without expectation, I feel like is true hope. Like hope without expectation of when the outcome will be, like when the outcome will happen, when you will receive what you're wanting to receive. Because that, like, hope and expectation are two very different things. I feel like hope is trusting that it will happen when it needs to happen. Expectation is like, okay, I'm like, this needs to happen. I can't function until it does. Whereas hope is like, I feel like my heart longs for that, but I'm trusting that God's got it. Whereas expectations of when something happens and when the outcome and when our hope will be fulfilled, there's no trust in that. It's like, I don't know. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think, well, so my favorite Bible verse is Hebrews 11:1, which is, I'm going to read it really quick. This is the New King James Version of it. But now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And I think what a lot of people confuse is hope and faith. Hope is the expectation of the good outcome. Faith is I'm taking my hands off of the timing and what that looks like. And I think that at least that's kind of what I was hearing that you were getting at. It's like not having this, it needs to happen by this time.
Right, because if it's producing anxiety, if it's producing a lack of functioning, that's not faith.
No.
So in the book, it's more of like, let's let go of that and really just enjoy each present moment. And the more you let go of expectations and timelines and how exactly you want something to look like, it's going to look even better than you imagined. Or whatever it is, whether it's like what you hope for or not, it's going to end up looking better than you imagine when you just let go of it. And that's also really hard to say too, like to give this type of, I mean, if we don't have that, what do we have if we don't have that kind of hope? But like, you know, sometimes that medical diagnosis doesn't clear for someone. Sometimes this person doesn't get healed. And like, that's hard. Like that, my mama heart, when I see parents posting on TikTok about their kids, especially over the holidays, getting sick, like being terminally ill, like, how can I tell that person just let go and the outcome will be better than, like, I couldn't even imagine it for myself. So in a way I'm like, what am I even talking about? But like truly to just experience moment by moment and live in it and have gratitude for it and let hope come out of that and live in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it all boils down to perspective. And I say this as you were talking, I was like, I want to speak to all the cynics that are listening to this that rolled their eyes when you were saying that, because I've been there where you're like, something better's coming. Because I remember people telling me that and like legitimately getting angry and being like, that's great, but that's not right now. And I don't like, this is all I know right now, and it's too heavy and too real for me to think about anything else. And I want to say that like we honor that too, that lean into that feeling of like, embrace the suck, as I used to say, like just embrace that it sucks right now, go through it, feel everything fully, but it does get better. And there are so many people that love you, and I mean, even the kindness of strangers. I think this time of year particularly, like a smile can go a long way. And that sounds so stupid. It sounds like a coaster at like a little book. I don't know. Like, yeah. Like,
yeah. No, I agreed. Yeah.
But I looked at some studies about like mental health issues between the US and other countries, and it wasn't leading up to Christmas, but it was the time between Christmas and New Year's where it skyrocketed for like self-harm and just general psychopathology, and mental illness really skyrocketed. They were seeing a lot more incidents coming into hospital settings. And this is particularly in the US. And I could definitely see that, because I feel like once you get past Christmas, there's kind of you have this like holiday hangover, but then you have the New Year coming and all that's associated with that. And like, it's just a lot. So I get it.
It is really such a strange feeling. It's like you get a couple days off and then you're back to work, but then you're about to get a couple days off, and you're going into a holiday that's all about being a new person and being fresh and new goals and resolutions. It is such a strange time. So that's interesting that you say that, because even I sometimes feel like I'm like, who am I? What day is it? Like, this feels really weird. Like, I'm like very discombobulated mentally. So I can totally see that. And I think just wintertime in America in general with our time change, because I don't know, but I've heard that other countries don't have daylight savings time. So like, I feel like we live a lot of our time that we're supposed to enjoy ourselves after work in darkness.
Yeah.
And it's like a true representation of that in our mental health, because I get SAD during the winter. That's why I started snowboarding. Won't be doing that this season, but I'm like, I was even thinking about that today. I'm like, okay, how am I going to prepare myself when I'm mentally sad during winter? Because it will happen to me. What am I going to do? Do you?
No. I thrive in this kind of weather. It's like Bella Swan. It's any kind of dreary, like, and I'm also from Minnesota, so this is kind of all I know in a way.
Whereas like my rhythm, my like seasons were, I grew up in California.
Yeah.
And then moved to Tennessee. So like, I feel like I'm still not adjusted to that.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that boils down to personality too. As much as I try to be the kind of person that loves to be outdoors, and I have gotten much more to that point, I am always going to be a homebody. I am indoorsy. I like being home, and you know that. I like reading and having my knitting, and I think that that's why seasons practically are really great, because they're these external indicators of when to slow down and when to speed up. And I think that coming out of especially this summer, I so need a winter where I just hibernate and don't do anything. And my soul is so excited for that. Like, genuinely so excited to just embrace all of the cozy hygge things. And yeah.
I agree. I like that too. But I like to add vitamin D drops in there too. So like,
what's that?
Otherwise my body reacts, literally.
Yeah.
So
No, I get that.
It's just weird. I think really people really, really react differently as far as like biologically
Oh, yeah.
to the darkness and
Well,
the
people get
seasons.
those salt lamps or happy lights. I totally
Yeah.
understand that too. You know, and that's a lot of that's just kind of trial and error. You know, if it's really bad, go and, you know, seek out medication or therapy. But I also am taking both of those things. So, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, but I've been through seasons of that where I wasn't. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
No.
I have so much pride when it comes to needing to depend on other people and having other people help me because I'm such a giver. I really find that very difficult to receive, and so that was something that I really had to lean into is in my mental health taught me is that I'm limited for a reason and I can't do this by myself. And no matter how much I want to, I don't hate myself enough to not seek out help after going, like, I don't have to live this way, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
You should do a lot of receiving.
Oh, I plan on it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You deserve it. Everyone does.
Yeah. I've come a long way. I've healed from a lot, but yeah, it's about balance.
Yeah.
You have to receive in order to give. As I say all the time.
That's very, very true. I love that.
Okay, so according to Google, these are the big things that you're supposed to do around the holidays when you're navigating family and just icky feelings that come up, because triggers are out there. Like, all I want for Christmas is to be trigger free. You know, like
Yeah.
but that's not going to happen. So, Google says to manage expectations, set boundaries, prioritize self-care, start new traditions, communicate openly, say no when necessary, seek support, limit alcohol consumption, not a problem for me, or you this season, Virgin Bloody Marys though, volunteer, and practice mindfulness.
I love it.
So
love all of that.
I came up with three tips that I have. My first one is lean into your grief, but don't worship it. Because I had seasons of life where I was just really into self-pity, and it's really easy to sit there, especially around the holidays. So honor it, but don't worship it. Just make sure you're taking care of yourself and that you're leaving room for joy and happiness and goodness in your life, especially around this time. The second is to establish a new tradition. So that's what I started doing. I started to take up crocheting around this time of year because it's cozy, and I can't be living in Minnesota. Like, I can't really go outside a whole lot because of the weather. So having things to do in my home that make me feel good and happy, making pierogies on Christmas Eve, things like that. You know, establishing a new tradition or traditions or patterns, I think, is really important. And then the third one is surrounding yourself with people who understand what you're going through. And that doesn't necessarily even have to be, they don't have to be like physically with you, but I have told so many people about the group of women that I have had throughout this incredibly stressful, hard season of my life, and how incredibly fortunate I feel to have women that I could call at any hour of the night or day, and they would pick up and sit with me in that. And I mean, Irina, you especially, like you the other day, you talked me off of a serious ledge the other day, but just it's important to
We
have
listen and we don't judge. We need to do that.
So true. That's a word for somebody in here.
Agreed. Like having a good, even if it's two women couple that you lean on and that you trust to go to.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were doing that, so I'm going to give my 3 that have nothing to do with navigating family holidays, but
that's okay. We need all of the tips from Irina. It's okay.
These have a lot to do with navigating as we get into after the holidays. As soon as that crash comes in, and then the cold of the winter, the darkness comes in, and we're feeling that SAD come in. 3 things I would do to help that slump. Take your vitamin D every day. Every freaking day, take it. Get involved in a winter sport. Trust me, go snowboard. Oh, life-changing. And 3, if you can, go to Florida for like 3 days. It will
3 days
revive. It will revive you.
I have a very different relationship with Florida.
No, like get in the sun. Go somewhere where you can be. If you're wherever, on the East Coast where it's cold and it's dark all the time and you get that winter depression, go to Florida for a couple days if you can. Allegiant gives us like $60, $50 flights in the winter there. So get some sunshine in your life. It works. And then fall in love with winter. Join a sport. Anyways, those are my little 3 practical tips.
I love it.
Yeah.
I will not be snowboarding for obvious reasons, but I love that you do that.
Ski?
I could maybe snowshoe. Maybe. Maybe.
No, that's
We'll
so
see.
funny.
But, well, we hope that you all have a very happy holidays.
Yeah, I have to go to Costco and
I have to go to church.
pray for me at Costco while you're at
I
it.
will.
Thanks.